I was trying to think before I started this review, is there a movie out there that's a prequel and a sequel? I can't think of one lately, but this movie, that's exactly what it is. I'm going to be talking about the movie Whitebird. Now, this movie is going to be coming out later in the fall of this year, and I got a very early screener to check this film out and let you guys know if it's worth a watch. So stick around and let's talk about it. Julian Albans, the bully who let Beecher prep, is visited by his grandmère from Paris and is transformed by her remarkable story of compassion and courage. The film stars Ariella Glaser, Orlando Schwerdt, Bryce Gheisar, Gillian Anderson, and Helen Mirren, and was directed by Marc Forster, and he's done films like World War Z, Quantum of Solace, A Man Called Otto, Christopher Robin, Stranger Than Fiction, and Machine Gun Preacher. Going into Whitebird, I've seen the trailer for this film so many times, and really this film was supposed to come out back in 2022. It's had a million release dates, it's gotten delayed so many times, the writer's strike. It's supposed to be released in fall of 2024 this year. Hopefully it will finally stick in that spot. It's been playing on different festivals, it's been released overseas, and now I finally got a chance to check out this film way before the release date, which I'm very grateful for. Now this film is a sequel and a prequel. It's a sequel because it's about Julian, who was one of the friends of the deformed boy that was in the film Wonder that was released some years back with Owen Wilson. And I have to say, even though it is a sequel, it's so loose in the sequel that it really doesn't matter that it's a sequel, because it does show Julian obviously being in this boarding school. He got expelled from his other school because he was really mean to another kid. He's having a lot of trouble really fitting in, and when he gets home, he sees his grandmère Sarah from Paris, and she starts to really talk to him about his day and how he's really adjusting to the new school, and he really needs to be socially passive to actually fit in this new school. So Sarah starts to tell him about her childhood as she was a young Jewish girl back in 1942 when it was Nazi occupied in France, and she starts to tell him about all her hard times of what actually happened during those times and how the Nazis were really taking over and killing off Jews. And that's where we start to really have a story really develop, where she's really starting to talk about those tragedies that actually happened during those times. First off, the cinematography for this film is done really well. I like to actually go back in this smaller town in France, and we get to really learn and see how they're really thriving. And then when the Nazis actually take over, we're seeing how the town is crumbling one by one. You have children, families being taken away, and they're getting shipped off to these concentration camps, and you're really seeing the events unfold. You're seeing a town that's kind of quiet at first, and then when the Nazis actually occupy, you see a lot of people really getting in on the action. And what really makes it worse is a lot of times it's during the winter, and you have the harsh conditions of the snow. It's really cold, and you have people that are actually running from the Nazis and trying to escape, specifically children here, where they are getting rounded up one by one. You have teachers that are actually defending these little children and trying to protect them, and I actually really did like to see that, because it really showed that they were really standing up for their students and really caring about their well-being, because they are adults and they're supposed to protect them. So it's very interesting to actually see that, and it was really great to see the snow and the cinematography really kind of go into the harsh conditions of everything that was really going on during those times. The music itself, I felt, was very fitting. I felt overall it really flowed well with the film, and I felt like even though it was in the background, it wasn't too noticeable, but it was noticeable enough for it to really make an impact in certain scenes. I love here that we have first young love. Now you have Sarah, who escapes from the Nazis, and she meets this boy named Julian, who is one of her classmates, and he actually hides her in this barn, and so she just kind of hides out there for a while, and he tells her, don't come out, it's dangerous, and he tries to find an escape plan for her. But at the same time, when he comes home from school, he teaches her all the lessons that he's learned from the day, and I really like to see that, because you get to see their bond really grow, and you see them really daydreaming. They have this car that they're actually daydreaming in, and they have these different little dreams where they're thinking that they're going to go off to Paris. So I like to actually see that, because it shows they have imagination, and it shows they still have positive types of vibes that they're still thinking about during these negative times. where a bunch of things are happening and the Nazis are taking over and they're really having a tough time, and there's a lot of harsh things really going on during these times. So it's great to see that there's still positive outlooks from both of these children. Though I will say that this love story, even though I really do actually enjoy seeing that on screen, I do think that it slows down the film, because at one point in the film, obviously it shows Julian as he's in the school, and then obviously we have Grandmère who starts to talk about this story and really develop the story. Then it goes a little bit into the middle of this love story, and when we get to the love story, I feel like it kind of spins its wheels a little bit, and it really focuses a lot on that love story before the final act, which kind of picks up a little bit more and gets a little bit more action, because it does stall out a little bit where Sarah is talking about how the Nazis are doing this, this, and that. And then even though she's talking about that, it's a lot of the love story in between, so it does slow down the film a little bit, and I can see where people would be like, okay, let's, speed this up a little bit. This is a little bit boring. So in those kinds of parts, yeah, I can understand why somebody would criticize the middle of this movie. I did say that I did like the music, but there is one song choice that I will criticize that was in the beginning of the film, and that was a Post Malone song. And I was like, are you serious? For this kind of movie, he should not be in this movie whatsoever. I get that it is in present day when that song is actually played, but I was like, this is not the kind of song that this movie should even have in here. So definitely a criticism there. Now, as far as any other negatives in this film, I don't really have any more. I felt overall it was structured in a way where, for the most part, I was engaged, but I did feel like in the middle there, it kind of dies off just a tad, but then it picks up in the third act. And I will say, comparing this to like a movie earlier with the Anthony Hopkins movie that came out, One Life, in a way, in the beginning of the film to about the middle of the film, it feels like a PG kind of film. And then when it starts to pick up in the third act, it then starts to kick into a little bit higher gear into about a PG-13 film. It's definitely not a film that kids should be watching. And it's one of those films where I guarantee that there will be some tissues that will be needed by the time the third act actually starts to develop. And just some of the tragedies that really unfold during that third act, it can be a little bit hard to watch. So on that point, I think that this film does its job rather well. I think it's a rather told well story, and I think overall I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't think it's a movie that I'll probably watch again, and it really has very minimal impact on the movie Wonder. It's definitely one of its own story, and it's more of a prequel than it really is a sequel. It really has very minimal impact in that aspect. So as far as a score for this film, I would give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's one of those films that I can say that I definitely appreciate what it's trying to do. I can see where people be kind of sick of this subject because it is brought up quite a bit, and what else can you really do with it? So I can understand that criticism as well. When you guys do get a chance to check out this film, or if you've seen it already, let me know down in the comments, what did you guys think of it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? And check out these 2 new videos that I've recently released. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I will see you guys next time.